there has been Big Ten news.
Yes.
Apparently, the Big Ten is working on finalizing a deal with NBC and CBS for Big Ten rights starting in 2024, I believe. It's a big deal. And I think the most surprising part about it is that ESPN's not a part of it.
Right.
The thing that I think might be interesting for us to talk about, Mike, is what this might mean for Notre Dame fans if the Big Ten is now going to be on NBC, which has historically been the exclusive home of Notre Dame football.
So I think the biggest thing for Notre Dame is will NBC try and, will there be an individual move for them, right? We've already talked about the one report out there that Notre Dame was looking at wanted $75 million a year. They're currently make anywhere from 15 to 20 mil from NBC. And we've talked about what makes Notre Dame stay independent. And I think we both agree, a clear path to the playoffs. And we know it's going to be expanded to 12 or 16 teams. And Notre Dame will, as an independent, would have absolutely a clear path to the playoffs without question. And then it's how much money can Notre Dame make, because I don't care if it's our school, anybody else's school, this revolves around money. Why do we think USC and UCLA are popping to the Big Ten? A lot of it is about money. So what's the money to be made? What are all the different ways Notre Dame can be part of something or still alone in something? Because that's what everybody says. It comes out, as we mentioned, a $350 million deal for CBS, and the Big Ten. The question, where does that leave Notre Dame? We know where Fox is probably going to be in the $800 to $1 billion a year. Where does that leave Notre Dame? What are they going to do? So I think Jack Swarbrick, the AD, still sits back as the landscape continues to unfold and see, in all honesty, unless you disagree, Jess, you tell me what kind of comes to them. Mm-hmm. I would say would you think their phone would ring before they make a call to someone?
I think so. And I think this might be a good sign for Notre Dame fans that want to be independent, because this is an indication that NBC wants to keep having a college football presence. Like recently, NBC gave up all of their hockey rights to ESPN and shut down the NBC Sports channel. Right. And I think there maybe was like a thought that they were kind of thinking of taking some of their sports properties like away or giving up some and doubling down on others. So I think this is a good sign that maybe they're going to invest in more, college football studio shows and things like that, and things that make them a more attractive partner to Notre Dame. So it's good that they are still interested in maintaining, college football broadcasts. So I think you're right. I think Notre Dame's probably answering lots of phone calls right now, waiting to see what comes to them, probably waited to see how this Big Ten agreement would shake out.
Right.
Very lucrative deal for the Big Ten. I think that there are some Big Ten fans who might be concerned, though, that, Mike, you worked at ESPN for years. ESPN tends to pay more attention to the sports that they own the rights for. And so now there maybe is a worry that Big Ten schools won't get as much ESPN coverage, and how much does ESPN coverage impact the college football playoff rankings or the AP polls or whatever, how much broader media coverage you're getting. So I could see that maybe being a negative, but I don't know how much of a negative it will be. I don't know if that's really something quantifiable or tangible, especially because ESPN is still going to have all of the SEC games. They still have College Game Day. So they're going to be talking about college football.
Right.
It's not quite the same as NBC having hockey and ESPN not really covering hockey for a few years because they have no incentive to. I think ESPN still has an incentive to cover the other college football leagues, especially if there's, out of conference games or whatever. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how that shakes out for Big Ten fans, if they're going to be as upset as Notre Dame fans have been in the past if Notre Dame plays a big home game and doesn't end up on SportsCenter. We've all seen it happen.
It's a great point, because I was doing my show at ESPN when we stopped doing hockey. We talked about hockey. I mean, we had Barry Melrose on all the time. I love talking to Barry Melrose. And then hockey went to NBC, and we didn't talk about hockey. Now, one of the reasons, unfortunately, because I loved hockey, was when you talked about hockey on radio, the ratings weren't great. So that played into it. But from the TV side of ESPN, they basically stopped covering it. You're right. They basically stopped covering it. And now it's back, and they have all kind of studio shows, show all kind of games, so they put a lot behind it. I agree with you. I think even if ESPN isn't part of this deal, you're still going to get plenty of college talk because of College Game Day. It's still the leader out there. And in some of the games, they're going to do whatever their involvement is with the college playoffs. We have to kind of wait and see. Because still, the most popular sport out there is the NFL, and next might be college football. So that wasn't the same with hockey. Even when ESPN had hockey, while it was considered one of the big four, it was one of the low rated of it. College football is not. College football has monster ratings. So I got to believe they still will cover that. But the landscape's changing, and what do the teams care about? It's just like the NFL owners all sitting in their owners meetings like that are going on right now and asking, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How does it affect our bottom line? That's where college is now, from the players to the schools. And by the schools, I mean especially through their broadcasting deals. The players are sitting there, getting rich and actually allowed to make money through NIL, and the schools now are at a time where the broadcasting fees are going to go up. So the college presidents through the ADs are like, okay, what's going in our pocket, to help our school? That's what they're looking at. And fans, you deal with what you got to deal with, but we're getting X amount of money. And that's what we wait with Notre Dame. Because again, if there's expansion, getting into the playoffs is not going to be the issue. Now, if they only take conference champions as the top seeds, then Notre Dame would never be a top seed because they would never be a conference champ, but they'd be willing to live with that as long as the bottom line number is right. And that's essentially what we're just going to keep going around in circles with, right? What's the bottom line number going to be?
And I don't think the reports are out yet on if there's going to be a streaming partner for the Big Ten or what that might look like. But there has been some speculation about what like the Saturday schedule might look like now. And if they're doing a primetime Big Ten game on NBC, does that mean Notre Dame is not going to be getting primetime games on NBC? And Mike, I don't know about you, but I hope that's the case. I love the 3:30 kickoff. I love the 2:30 kickoff. Do not love the 7:30 kickoff.
As a player, the earlier I played, the better. In the NFL, I loved 1 o'clock games. At Notre Dame, I loved 2:30 games. Man, you were done. I mean, it was awesome. Prime time is cool every now and then, but for the most part, man, just let me get my uniform on and play. And God, I tell you now, from your side of it, I would have thought you would have liked the later games because you could tailgate longer.
I just think I think 3:30 is the perfect amount of time to go. I know Notre Dame's been doing more 2:30 games lately. Right. NBC's been giving them the 2:30 slot, but the 3:30 was always my favorite because you get to the tailgate. It's the perfect amount of time to drink, go to the game, get a hot dog or something, and then the game ends and you still got your whole night. Then you can nap for a while, right? You can nap, you can go out, you can just go home, you can have dinner. It's just the perfect amount of time. Especially my family when I was growing up, we used to drive from Chicago to Notre Dame every Saturday for games. Both my parents went to Notre Dame. They're big ND football fanatics. So, first of all, Mike, you lose an hour because of the time zone change. Right. It's brutal. So you leave at 8 a.m. You don't get there till 11. But it was the perfect amount of time when you got there to just kind of hang out for a while, see the game, and then you can still drive home. And you get home at a pretty reasonable time. And I don't know, maybe I sound like an old lady, but I really enjoyed that. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of the primetime games. I also feel like they stress me out more.
The primetime games? Why? Because there's more on it?
I don't know. I just think they're the atmosphere. I will say, I think Notre Dame Stadium probably is more of a, I don't know, a harder place to play during the primetime games. And now they're doing all this stuff with the light show and everything like that. But, and I think the crowd's just a little bit louder, but I don't know, Mike. They just...
the one thing about the 7:30 game as well is you had to... Normally there's that lull. I'm just thinking of college students now or even players. There's that lull from as long as there's no game, if your game's over, from 7 to 9 or 10 where you can chill before you start to, prep to go out. You have a primetime game, you're out. That's it, right? I mean... you're getting ready for that game, you're getting lubed for that game, and then right after the game, you're going right out. I mean, that night has to continue, and you're dead by the end of the night.